Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. I am your host, Jody Harris, CEO of Fun, and I am also the owner of Sight and Sound Events with over 300, that's right, over 300 weddings a year under my belt. And I am here and I'm excited because we have a great show today on a topic that a lot of people don't think they need. They don't think about it. They're always asking their vendors to carry this, but they're never carrying it themselves. So we're going to talk about insurance, especially now. Especially we've had these hurricanes that have happened. What happens if your wedding is canceled? The stuff going on with Alfred Angelo, with the gowns. So we have a great show for you today, and my special guest is Victoria Sutherland, who has the most awesome wedding name ever. Isn't that great? And she sells insurance. She should be writing romance novels, but she's an insurance specialist. She is with Trenchant Insurance here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So Victoria, thank you so much for coming. I mean, this is great.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. We were casually talking. We're both members of the Las Vegas Wedding Chamber of Commerce, and we had a casual conversation about 2 weeks ago here at my office, and we were talking about insurance, and you just blew my mind. And I'm the girl who does, like I said, 300 weddings a year, and I never thought about the other side. So I really think that this is a great topic because there are couples from all over the world that are listening to this podcast, and I want them to know that this is a very serious topic. And so we're going to dig right into this because first thing question that these people are going to be asking me is, why wedding insurance? What is wedding insurance? So go ahead. What is wedding insurance?
Okay, wedding insurance, simply put, will protect you from losing any of your deposits, and when the event happens, it protects you from a liability standpoint. If someone's hurt or someone causes an accident or something like that, those people can come back and sue you. Alfred Angelo is a great example of not losing a deposit. You're a bride. You go to Alfred Angelo on, March 3rd and put $500 down on this gown that's going to be delivered in 6 months, and on March 8th, they go out of business. You're not getting your gown, and you're not getting your deposit back.
So it's a lot. If you had wedding insurance, something like that, that would cover it.
Correct.
So wedding insurance protects you in case of a vendor goes. So you just said vendor goes
down. There's some sort of disaster. For example, what if you had your wedding planned in Miami the weekend that the hurricane hit?
Or Puerto Rico.
Or any of the islands at this point.
Sure.
If you have wedding insurance, you get your deposits back, you can reschedule, and you can still have your wedding, and you're not out a bunch of money.
Yeah, and that's critical. I mean, we've all been seeing the hurricane coverage and September, October in the Caribbean. Very popular time of year for these hurricanes to happen. I mean,
but it happens all the time. I mean, Cabo San Lucas, they have tropical storms all year round.
Sure.
So you've got a beach wedding planned. You've put out thousands of dollars, and the airport shuts down because there's a storm.
We just had Mexican earthquakes.
Mexican earthquakes.
I mean, I know Mexico is also a very popular spot for weddings,
right?
And we've had the earthquakes. I was about to ask you a question about the travel, the destination stuff, and my mind just went blank. It'll probably come to me in a second. So so how soon should you look into getting wedding insurance? Well, I think I just thought of my question. I'm going to go back. When it came to the destination weddings, forget it. Just how soon should you get wedding insurance? I had it. I swear, this is what happens when you multitask people. Hey, how soon should you get the wedding insurance? Because I was just thinking of something with a destination, and it'll totally come back to me. But how soon should you get wedding insurance? I mean, is it something that you can get a month before your wedding? How soon?
It totally depends on how you're doing your wedding. If you are starting out a year ahead of time and you're putting deposits down with vendors, you need to get your wedding insurance right now. If you're getting married next month and it's in your backyard, maybe not so much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I just thought of it. So wedding insurance, because we were talking about the hurricanes and disasters. So wedding insurance is not necessarily for, obviously, if you're having a destination wedding, you should be seriously.
You should seriously get your wedding insurance.
Okay, got it. But it's not for destination weddings, and you just kind of hinted on it, like.
No, it's not. It's not specifically for destination weddings.
So if you live in Cleveland and your wedding is in Cleveland.
In Cleveland, it still covers you for your vendors because vendors go out of business.
Sure.
It covers you for things that happen. Let's think about this. You have ABC Bakery making your 15-tier wedding cake for your great big cathedral wedding.
Sure.
In Cleveland. And for whatever reason, on their way to your reception hall, they're in a fender bender, the cake falls over, it's smushed.
Oh, wow.
You're going to get your money back from your wedding insurance.
Even if that cake baker comes up with a B plan, would it still
even if they
apply
come up
they
with
have
a B plan? It would still apply if they have a B plan.
Interesting. Yeah, you never think about that because I saw that in Easy Money, by the way. Rodney
Did you
remember Easy Money? Folks?
I don't.
Rodney Dangerfield, go look what happened to the wedding cake in Easy Money. But wow, that's what sparked this conversation. So some of the risks. So some of the risks where we talked about this Alfred Angelo thing, if a lot of you don't know what we're talking about, Alfred Angelo was and I have a bride, by the way, who's getting married this Saturday. Alfred Angelo is a very popular dress shop where people go and buy their gowns. And there was no hint.
No warning. Their own employees had no idea. They were taking deposits the day before they closed their doors.
Wow. Yeah, because this bride had kind of heard something, but she wasn't sure. And then when I heard about it, so had she had this wedding insurance, her gown would be covered.
Her gown would be covered if they put deposits down on bridesmaids' dresses, mother-in-law dresses, any of that stuff.
So with wedding insurance, do you can I buy wedding insurance only on my gown, only on my flowers, only on my cake? Is it a whole bundle plan?
It's a bundled plan.
Okay. So it would cover.
Yeah, and there's different levels depending. You can look at the chart, and you can say, yes, this will cover my gown because I'm only spending this much, and you can choose what level of coverage you want.
Okay. So we talked about the what is the wedding insurance. We talked about the why, but there's also another big why, and this I thought was really interesting because, like I said, as a vendor myself. Venues ask me all the time to provide, and a lot of our listeners who might be in the wedding business, we have to provide insurance policy, a 1 million or a 2 million general liability insurance policy. But the same thing, your wedding insurance is kind of like our liability insurance. Kind of explain the whole thing about the drinking, if you can, about a guest.
There's two different kinds of liability insurance within the wedding insurance itself. The first is general liability, which, your guest is walking down the steps of the church to get it to their car to go to your reception. They slip, they fall, they break their leg. Well, they're probably going to go after the church, but they can also go after the bridal couple.
Interesting. Because they wouldn't have broke their leg.
They wouldn't have broken their leg if they hadn't been at that wedding.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. Same thing with a car. We were talking about driving, right? I mean, you're going to go there, so.
Yeah, so the second part of it would be liquor liability.
This I found so interesting.
Yeah, because unless you're going to have a completely dry wedding with no toasting and no nothing, so you wouldn't run the risk of any liquor sorts of incidents. But if you're serving champagne or you have an open bar, or even if you have a pay-as-you-go bar, and one of your guests drinks too much, goes out, gets into their car, has an accident, kills somebody, yes, that somebody is going to go after them through their car insurance. But if that's not enough, they're going to find out why that person was drunk, and they're going to go after you.
Wow. And you've seen cases. I mean, how many years have you been in the insurance business?
I've only been in the insurance business 3.5 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. But your company has been around a while.
But my company's been around a long time.
Wow. Yeah. So these are cases that actually come up.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I would have never in a million years ever thought that, having an insurance policy, I mean, it makes everything you're saying makes total sense.
We all carry around this idea in our head about our weddings. In our head, everything from the moment we put the dress on until the moment we get into the car to go to the honeymoon, everything's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's never perfect.
Right. No. I always try to tell our couples that nothing is ever perfect. I mean, on paper, when you're planning it 2 weeks before, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, but it never happens. You also mentioned to me during the break, or prior our little pre-production meeting here, that you were talking about food poisoning. I thought that was a very interesting story. Share your food.
Okay, so
and this would be covered. If you had wedding insurance.
If you had wedding insurance, because they cover unforeseen circumstances.
So this is an unforeseen.
This is an unforeseen circumstance. My brother-in-law was getting married, and the day before, his whole side of the family spent the day together. We went to Disneyland. And that night, we're all in our hotel suites, and my sister-in-law got sick first. But then my in-laws got sick, then my husband, then me, and pretty soon the entire side of his family, including the groom, has food poisoning. And we are so sick.
And this is the night
before the wedding. We are so sick that we end up in the emergency room that morning.
Wow.
And they thought it was pretty funny. We didn't.
Wow.
Most of us did not make it to the wedding. The groom had to step outside to throw up and go back in to finish the ceremony. The reception was canceled.
The reception
was canceled.
How many people got sick?
There must have been 12 of us altogether.
Wow. And how big was the wedding reception?
The wedding reception was probably for about 200 people.
Oh my gosh.
So, but the groom was sick.
Right.
You can't have the reception without the groom.
Yeah. Although I've seen people try to do it, but you're right. Yeah. I mean, that's what wedding insurance is all. That's what it was for.
So if they had wedding insurance, they could have simply put a sign up on the church door said, "Wedding postponed. We'll let you know when it is." They would have gotten all their deposit money back. They could have rescheduled everything.
Got it. So the deposit money would have been, because again, we don't know the circumstances with venues, but
right.
I mean, but having wedding insurance,
would have covered the cost of everything, so that they could redo it.
Wow, that's crazy. Because I've been in a similar situation where somebody has gotten food poison and they went through with it. Obviously, again, because when we talk about weddings, and especially here on our show, The Wedding's Done Right. We always talk about the fluff. We never talk about the stuff.
This is the bare bones of stuff. The things that you don't want to have happen, but they do.
Right. So are there any other situations that you can think of? Like we talked about the family medical emergency. If something happens, though, on the day of the wedding, like I was telling you the story about the father of the groom that had passed away at the wedding. I mean, they stopped the wedding in the middle. He had his heart attack in the middle. Had they had wedding insurance? I mean, I don't know if this is...
It probably wouldn't have covered anything concerning the ceremony because that was already going on.
Right.
But if they canceled their reception, it would have covered that.
Okay. But it was that reception was already happening, so I can't imagine.
Yeah, right. It probably wouldn't have covered much.
Right, exactly. It's all the stuff. But if Dad had that heart attack the night before...
Yeah, they could have delayed everything.
Got it. So we talked about the family, the military. That's interesting too. It would surprise me. I mean, if you're married or you're engaged to somebody who's in the military, you should have wedding insurance.
You absolutely have to have wedding insurance because deployments happen and you don't know that it's coming. For example, I mean, it wasn't a wedding, but I had a baby in March. I was deployed to the Gulf in August. There was no warning, no forewarning whatsoever. I got a phone call. They said, you're going, and I was gone.
Sure. And with the way the things are in the world today, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, even I was watching the news this morning, the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The Air Force, the Army, the National Guard, they are all deploying to Puerto Rico right now. Mm-hmm. So if your wedding was this weekend and your guy's in one of those things, or you're in one of those things, your wedding's off.
Yeah. So even though he might be, you know, they might have given him leave, you get that call. You can't.
Your leave is canceled.
Yeah, your wedding is over, and so again, another great example as to why you need to have the wedding insurance. Mm-hmm. And then we were also talking a little bit about people dancing on a dance floor. You kind of touched on it when you said the church steps as well. But when we're at the reception and God forbid somebody falls on the dance floor, again, one of those situations where they might want to go after the vendor. But really,
they might go after the vendor, but if the vendor doesn't have enough, they're going to reach to the next level. We live in a very litigious world. And the attorneys are not going to stop at the first level anymore. They go 2 and 3 pockets deep to get enough money for whoever their client is.
Right. So my question to you, because I'm writing them down, because should venues then, so venues require vendors to have insurance. Mm-hmm. Should venue, and I know the answer, you sell insurance, you're going to be, yeah, of course, this is what I do for a living. but aside, honestly, in your heart of hearts,
honestly,
I mean,
venues need to make
listening to you right now, if I owned a venue, and again, I don't know how much it costs, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I would think that if you do weddings and you're a venue, you should encourage or at least require, just like you require me as a vendor to have my insurance, you should probably encourage couples to have wedding insurance for everything you just said.
Yes, and there are quite a few venues that do. And then again, there are quite a few venues who don't. And I don't know that they understand that they're taking on all the liability.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Yes, as an insurance agent, I'm always worst case scenario.
Right, right.
You know.
But, you know, like I said, having this conversation with you is like, gosh, you know, I mean, I also plan events. I would definitely, like, now you got me thinking, you know, when I do a military wedding, I'm going to be like, did you get your wedding insurance? Do you have wedding insurance?
I'll give you some brochures.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, or even destination. I mean, who would have predicted 9/11? What was that, 16 years ago now? Mm-hmm. I remember, because, you know, my company has been around for 22 years. I remember that at that time that a lot of weddings were canceled here in Vegas.
Well, the airlines shut down for 5 days.
Yeah.
So you cannot predict what's going to happen in the world, and you cannot predict how that will affect you. There's a ripple effect to everything.
Sure. There absolutely sure is. Tell me a little bit about, so you said, we talked about when you should purchase it. You said when you sign your first
When you sign that first contract.
And it doesn't matter with who.
Right. It can be with the caterer, it can be for your dress, it can be with someone like you for the music. It could be for any reason whatsoever, but the minute you start putting money out on your wedding, you need to get your insurance.
Got it. And when you buy the insurance, and again, when you buy the insurance, let's say somebody just hires me today, hires a Sight and Sound to rock their wedding in next year. The other stuff will also be included, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
Yes, and the good thing is, let's say you start out and you go, oh, I'm going to have this teeny tiny wedding with 50 people, and we're only going to spend X number of dollars.
Right.
And over the course of the next 6 months, it explodes.
Yeah, that's what, and it usually does.
It usually does.
And it usually does. Absolutely.
You can call us and we can add on.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So let's talk then about cost, because I'm sure people's heads are changed, you know. And again, this is not written in stone. You need to talk to an insurance professional, but for the sake of the show, I just want to give everybody a little bit of an idea of what you're looking at, because I don't know myself. I wouldn't know how to break the price down. So Victoria is our expert. She's going to kind of tell us.
Well, it honestly comes down to the size of your wedding.
So meaning guest-wise or price-wise?
Both.
Okay. Well, if you just hired a DJ, for example, me, how are you going to know that in the end this wedding is going to wind up costing you $20,000? Or do you just guess? Is it?
Well, I would say, and I think a lot of wedding experts would also agree, you don't plan a wedding without a budget.
Okay.
You want to know how much you're going to spend on each thing. Like, I'm not going to spend more than $1,000 on the dress. I'm not going to spend more than $1,000 on the caterer, or whatever your number is.
Sure.
So you have a rough estimate of what your wedding's going to cost. And then you can look at this little chart and you can see approximately how much the wedding insurance will cost. Now, let's say you have a destination wedding and you're putting out $25,000, altogether, and you want to insure it against the postponement or cancel, right? Well, that would be $255.
Okay, so repeat it one more time.
So you have a wedding, you're putting out $25,000.
Okay, so
that's your budget.
Okay, got it.
Okay. You look at the chart and it says cancellation or postponement, $25,000. And you look over at what it's going to cost you to get covered, it's $255.
That's
it's like 1% of your budget.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I had to have you repeat it, because I'm like, what'd she say?
What?
Like, it was like, that's it.
And then if you want to add liquor liability onto it, it's another $50.
Okay. So you could add, so that was like if the wedding cancels.
If the wedding canceled, you get all your money back.
So if my husband to be is in the military and we have to cancel, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And then if I want to add on this liquor liability, if I do have my wedding.
Well, liquor liability is an endorsement on top of everything else, so it costs an extra $50.
Okay. That's nothing.
That is nothing.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how could somebody get denied coverage? Could
I've never seen anyone get denied coverage for a wedding.
Unless you were getting married in a barn or something.
Well, I don't know. Maybe if you were getting married at a biker bar or something, but I don't know.
No, but it would be really hard
It would be very hard to not get your wedding insurance.
And by the way, I'm playing with this. I'm looking to see if anybody has anything. Okay, thank you very much. That's my producer in my head, my husband, Pat. Awesome. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. We appreciate that. So, it's very rare that somebody can get turned down for.
I would say it's nearly impossible.
Good to know. Good to know. How does one go about and purchase it? Besides calling you.
Oh, besides calling me? Well, obviously you have to call me.
We do have to say that. Call Victoria.
There are a couple of different companies that offer wedding insurance, and you can find them both through any major wedding internet site, like The Knot or
The Wedding Wire.
Wedding Wire.
Okay. The bridal magazine.
Bridal magazines.
I get bridal magazines, and I never see anything like.
They're probably in the very back.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess maybe it's not sexy. It's
not sexy.
I
mean, you don't want to put like on your front cover of your bridal magazine, wedding disasters.
No. But I got to be honest with you. These magazines should, because not that, but they should do some sort of story, because look, at the Caribbean is gone.
Yes,
I mean,
and to be fair,
all those sandals resorts and all those places. I mean,
and to be fair, The Knot and Wedding Wire and Brides Magazine, they all do stories like that on occasion.
Okay. I think we'll probably see more and more of this because of what happened, with the hurricanes.
Well, and I would think we'd see more and more of it just because, like a month and a half ago, Alfred Angelo went out of business with no warning.
Sure.
So all those brides are scrambling.
Sure. Or, God forbid, an accident happens.
Yes.
This is horrible, but I remember years ago when I was living in New York that there was a limo incident where a bride was on her way to her wedding, and the limo had an accident. I mean, had she had wedding insurance,
they would have gotten their money back.
Yeah. Oh man, that's because I mean, again, people that listen to Weddings Done Right live all over the world. So, I mean, they are taking limos, and I would think that right away. I mean, that would get me scared right away.
Right.
You're entrusting your
life to somebody you don't know.
Yeah, you're in a car. I mean, even if you hire a limo, get insurance.
Well, you don't know who that driver is.
No, I mean, Princess Di didn't know.
She had no clue.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened to her. I mean, God forbid anything happens to anybody listening. But you just don't know. You just don't know what could happen. You certainly weren't expecting food poisoning on your brother-in-law's wedding day.
No.
So I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Just so, having been in the wedding industry as long as I have, I find this subject so fascinating, like I said, and that's why I wanted to bring you on as a guest. I mean, this is just, there's so much for people to learn.
Well, and, on a lighter side, one of the things that it covers that you don't think about, okay? Most people send their wedding gifts to you ahead of time if you have a wedding that's planned.
Sure.
Right? But you always have that dozen or 2 dozen people that show up with the gift in their hand at the reception. Wedding insurance covers breakage and theft.
Good to know.
So if one of your wedding gifts disappears,
or somebody steals the
or
envelope,
somebody steals the envelope, or whatever,
there's been situations like I hear stories about that all the time.
Yeah.
There was a wedding one time where the gifts went missing. They found out who did it.
There you go.
Yeah, because the videographer happened to have the camera locked down, like he had like we have here, a stationary camera, and they were able to catch the thief. But still, I mean, you're right. What if someone's
What if somebody steals? There's a nice big green Tiffany box and it disappears.
You know what, Victoria? I just shake my head all the time because again, because of what I do. It gets me so nervous when people leave their box, their mailbox, whatever, with the envelopes in it, and they just leave it out there in a public spot. And you're having a wedding at a hotel. I mean, anybody can just come by and just, So again, such another great point as to why you should have the insurance.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else? Is there anything that we didn't cover? Anything that you want to tell our listeners? I mean, there's so much good information and here about the insurance. Anything that we did not touch on that they should know about? And if anybody wants to touch base with Victoria or myself, please, you can find us on Facebook at Weddings Done Right, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Victoria will also leave her contact information should you want to reach out to Victoria as well. And I'll make sure in the listing and the description of this show that we have her contact information, so that way y'all have, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Victoria.
Okay.
So good. But anything, we feel like we covered everything?
I think we have covered everything.
I think so. I mean, these were all, like I said, casual conversations that you and I had privately, and then I wanted to bring this to the listeners of our show, because, again, I'm just flabbergasted that more venues wouldn't require this, and it's not that much money.
It's super cheap considering the coverage you're getting. I mean, the value of dollar to dollar is huge.
Yeah.
So I would say every bride, every groom, every mother of the bride, every father needs to think about how much money are you putting out on this? I actually have a statistic. This was a survey done by the Knot in February, nationwide. And the average cost of a wedding in the United States right now is $35,329.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. And I could tell you that our New York listeners are spending $75,000 for their wedding.
Yeah.
And imagine, I mean, we're talking about East Coast, New York, Jersey, South Jersey, where those hurricanes can hit. Imagine.
Well, there's one going up the coast right now.
Yeah, yeah.
If you were if you were having your wedding,
or Miami.
If you're having your wedding on the Outer Banks this weekend, you're not having your wedding.
Wow. All right. You heard it from Victoria. So Victoria, how can somebody get in contact with you? Is there an email that you want to leave us with?
Sure. My personal email at work is Victoria@quoteroad, QUOTEROAD.com.
Okay.
And you can look up Trenchant Insurance, which
Spell
is
it.
yeah, TRENCHANT in Las Vegas. And I believe you can also look us up at quoteroad.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Great information, Victoria. And for those of you who want to get in touch with me, I am on Facebook and Twitter, Jody Harris, also on Instagram. I want to thank Victoria so much for being here because she made this fun. We we're talking about which is very serious, but I think everybody can really truly, I think there's some great takeaways today that thanks to you, they got some great takeaways. So again, I'm going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Weddings Done Right, the how-to for the I do. I am Jody Harris, and I will see you guys next time. And make sure, I hope that all your weddings are fun-tastic. See you next time.